Alrighty, we have here the Ducati. This is a 2015 Ducati Multistrada 1200. What a beautiful bike. It is so gorgeous. I love the red frame guards, well, tank guards, crash guards, whatever you want to call them. That looks super cool. Couple other little things that add to the looks of this bike that are subtle, but really done well. A few little upgrades. So let's take a look really quick. We've got these protectors right here. This is kind of right where your knees hit. So these add a little bit of grip, a little grip tape, but it looks cool. Just a little tiny touch. Another thing you'll notice is the rear passenger pegs are normally silver. Some of them are black, and these have been done in this coating that matches the bike better. I love it. That's a cool, just a tiny little feature. Having the engine protectors or the frame guard or whatever you want to call these crash guards matching the frame, those are sweet. This also has a new slave cylinder for the clutch that makes the clutch pull a lot easier. That is super cool. Nice touch. Some really cool touches with this bike. Just some subtle little upgrades. The chain and sprockets have been upgraded, and it's got this black with the gold anodized sort of. It sort of matches the swing arm, the look of that, and I think that's a cool touch as well. Ducati puts a really nice seat on these bikes. This cover is sort of a suede kind of material, and it was really grippy. Super cool. It says Multistrada in it. I love that. Super cool looking. New tires. The tires are great. And then another little touch is that the rear blinkers normally stick out about that far, and they get caught on passenger legs and other things. So these have been just moved in. Kind of a nice touch. Well, let's see what else we've got. Oh yeah, the front brakes have been upgraded. So semi-floating disc brakes is what these come with, and that's better than non-floating. Full floating disc brakes, if you grab onto them, you'll see how they rattle like that. That's a full floating disc brake. What that does for you is just a lot freer of a front wheel. Say freer. It spins freely, so there's no brake drag on them. If I could actually put this on a center stand or something, you'd see the front wheel just spins super freely instead of binding on the brakes a little bit. Super nice touch. Expensive upgrade, but really cool. Has the fog lights on it as well. That's a nice upgrade. Love the way this bike looks from the front when the lights are on and all that. Another upgrade, and we'll sit on it here, and that is these handlebars. It's got the Pro Taper bars on it, and these are adventure bars. Brings up the bars a little bit higher, just a little bit, but it makes for a very perfect position for these for the handlebars. Standing as well makes it really nice. I think we should give it a ride. All right, I will go over really quickly the instrument cluster. This is one thing that on a lot of bikes I really hate, all the electronics that they add on a bike, and you hear me on every bike, I'm just like, oh my god, why do they add all these electronics? This one, man, they have done it right. Let me go ahead and get the bike powered up here. I always forget how to do that. It's a keyless ignition system, so you don't need the key. If you forget the key, it's going to put up a thing here for your code. You can enter the code with the menu button here. I've got the key in my pocket, so perfect there. Starts up. Now, here's the cool part. A lot of information on this display, but if I go to the menu button here really quick and I click, you got sport, touring, urban, enduro, all the sports, and then in the sub menu here, it's going to show you all the different. Let me go back to that again. It shows you what all the sub pieces. So the ABS setting is 3, the DTC is 5, and then it shows you the amount of suspension, if it's stiffer, and you can adjust each one of those. So if I go in here, let's say to sport, it's now I put it on sport just by pressing and holding on sport. I think if I just hold the menu button, then we get into the riding modes, and we get riding mode for, if I click on riding modes, I can click on the sport one, and then you have all the different settings. And when you put it in sport mode, how do you want it to be set up? Do you want the engine in high, medium, or low? Do you want DCT? And you've got 8 levels of DCT, DWC, off to all these different levels, the ABS, the different levels. There's 3 levels of ABS. All super easily adjustable. And then you can go down to, is it one rider? Is it a rider with luggage? Is it 2 riders? 2 riders with luggage? And then you can go back really easily and select default. And you can do that for each one of these. So you do it for sport, you do it for touring, you do it for urban and enduro. Now, that is just awesome. And every time you come back on the bike, the settings stay the same as you had them before. And that's another big pet peeve of mine, is that when you get on most of these bikes, every time you got to go in and redo this. Not with this bike. It stays the same, and I never have to come back here. Once I got it set up, you could probably spend an hour here setting these things up. The backlight, the information mode, you can change the pin code, the clock setting, unit settings, you can do lap setting. I mean, just so much you can do. But the cool thing is, it stays put. Once you've set it, it stays that way. And now all I have to do is decide, do I want it in sport mode? Do I want it in touring mode? And I'm on it in touring mode, so I'm just going to set touring. Now it's set for touring. If you do this while you're riding, I wouldn't actually suggest it. I mean, just going from mode to mode would be fine. It'll make sure you can't be on the brakes, and you have to be off the throttle. So you can set the setting, and it'll say close the throttle or let off on the brakes, and it'll reset it. It just doesn't want to reset the settings while you're on the brakes or while you're on the throttle. Alrighty, we're going to do a little quick lap around the parking lot here, because this bike is super friendly. 160 horsepower motorcycle, and it is one of the friendliest bikes I've ridden. I sit on this bike, I'm 6 foot tall, I have a 32-inch inseam, and I'm flat-footed. Also, I feel like I'm up here off the ground, so that's pretty nice, flat-footed, and I'm off the ground. It means a narrow seat in the front, so it's easy to grab the ground. And then the foot pegs are low enough on this bike that I've got lots of leg room. That's cool. Now let's ride around the parking lot here a little bit, and you find it's just super easy to maneuver. I can make super tight turns. The throttle is super easy to manage. It's not jerky. It's just awesome. This is so easy to turn around in parking lot. I'm making little tiny sharp turns, better than most. Oh my god, just so easy to maneuver this bike. It is, for a 160 horsepower motorcycle, that's just a bad to the bone motorcycle. That's easy. Let's adjust that windscreen. Grab, pinch, push it down. That's all there is to it. You just grab it and pull it back up with the other hand. Any hand you have free, super easy. Another really well thought out thing, it doesn't need to be electric. You can just move it. That is just awesome. All right, and shifting, it's nice and smooth. The sound of this bike, you do hear the exhaust, you hear the engine note. I mean, it's a 1200cc motor, you can hear it. And we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull over here really quick, just because we're just doing a little bit here. And what I want to do is get us out on some windy roads so we can play with this bike a little bit. And just like that, we'll be there, okay? Okay, so we are out on the Ducati Muulitstrada 1200.
Let's take this baby out for a ride. Actually, I get a little bit ticked off about the key fob system and all these bikes that have key fobs, and I go into that, but I'm not going to get into details. So let's get this baby out for a ride.
Just get a new key. So that's a gripe for me. Listen to that sound.
amazing. And it's fast. It's really fast, but so smooth. Now these bikes come with a couple different options on tires. I really recommend putting some good street tires on it, even if it came with more like the Scorpions or something like that. The bike really does well in the street, and with the right set of street tires you can still do, you know, dirt roads, gravel roads, and all of that. You can put a set of knobbies on this bike and do a bunch of off-road. That's no problem at all. I think it takes away from 90% of what you're going to want to do on the bike. Now here's another feature. That little green icon right there with the cruise control. I can set that, and now I can let that hand go free and I can rest. So this thing is set up for touring, absolutely. It's set up for luggage, so that you can buy the Ducati luggage and put it on here. They make some aftermarket luggage sets for it as well. I can decrease. Oh, this guy's gonna let me go by. Seems anxious for me to go by. And can set my cruise control. I like the electronic cruise control. I love that. Used it on my last trip. Just really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off now. Now on this electronic cruise control, it's not moving the handle, it's actually just moving the butterfly within the throttle bodies. So you don't feel it on the grip. On my BMW, you feel it on the grip. It actually moves the grip. I love the bars on this. The bars just, the Ducati put room in they built room into this bike, and I can't get over it. So a lot of the Ducati and old Multistradas, the one thing I couldn't get over is the bars felt too close to my chest, and I felt cramped, like my butt was a little bit too far forward. It just kind of felt cramped on the bike. And this bike, I've got all sorts of room, yet I still feel like I'm a part of the motorcycle, and that's a Ducati trait with their Multistradas, is that you sit down sort of in the motorcycle and you feel like you're part of it. You can grip the bikes pretty narrow with your knees, and you just feel a part of that motorcycle. You feel like you're sitting in a cockpit. And that's still part of this motorcycle, part of this package, but they added room to kind of move around a little bit. And with these bars set up, I just, you know, I feel just right with it. It just feels perfect. It feels really good. And I think I mentioned about the leg room on this bike, and the pegs feel low, but they're, you know, like I've got a lot of room. They don't feel too low like I'm going to drag my feet. They're not up, you know, I'm not cramped in the cockpit. Really, they've set up this bike really well. Go around some corners here. It's just so easy to handle. Maybe one of the things that you don't realize, that you might be going a little faster than you think, because the bike just handles it so well. Very smooth, electronic suspension, just awesome. In touring mode, I've got the suspension set up at default. Now you can customize that however you like, but I tend to like this default setting, and touring's just right. It's nice and soft, so if there's any imperfections in the road, it just sucks it up. You get into sport mode and it's a little stiffer. It would be great for the track or a really, really smooth road. Pretty much like this one is smooth. But I really like that touring mode. And you can control the power modes too. So you could have touring mode with full power, or you could reduce that power down to medium or low, just depending on your riding style and what you like. Very comfortable motorcycle. The seat, you will never have to replace this seat with like an aftermarket one, because it is phenomenally comfortable. And this is one of those bikes you don't want to sell. It really handles just so easily. The nice big wide bars. And these are aftermarket bars. The stock ones are pretty good too. But these adventure bars just bring it up just a little bit higher. And Pro Taper makes a really nice bar. I tend to like the way they have the bend so that keeps your elbows out a bit. Very precise handling. Really can put this bike anywhere you want it. And you know, a bike that can go from riding the twisties like that to just setting the cruise control and riding all day long, out to a track, maybe do a track day, and be just as comfortable. That's the thing, is you can set this thing up. You can go take your sport mode and set it up for track. And you can take all the time to adjust, you know, just how aggressive everything is within that. You know, how aggressive is the ABS, how aggressive is the traction control, you know, wheelie control mode, all of this stuff. You control that, program that in. Now when you get to the track, you just go select sport, boom, done. You can set it up for canyon carving in one mode. You can set it up for cruising on the highway. And this is one where I really do like the electronics in this. It's just really well thought out, super easy to use. And I set that cruise control on. This display is pretty, you know, it has a night mode and it has a day mode, and you can select one or the other. You can keep it in night mode, which is a pretty cool look, or you can keep it, you know, in day mode. And it's all programmable, which is super cool. It's just a joy to drive. Now let's talk about weight. And I'm not going to give you the weight figures. You can go look those up. But really, a lot of the things about a bike and weight is, how does it feel? And it feels like a really light motorcycle. It's super light feeling. I mean, it feels like, I want to say, a scooter. It just feels so lightweight. Part of that's because you're down in kind of part of that part of the motorcycle. It's a well-balanced bike. Just the way, you know, the ergonomics of the bike, I guess. But it just feels super, super lightweight. You know, I say this has 160 horsepower. And horsepower is one of those figures that really doesn't matter. How much torque does the bike have? And then you can say, okay, then how far does it rev out? Because horsepower is only a figure of torque over time. And how does, holy shit, it's got some power. All right, quick mention on the mirrors. Mirrors are always an important part of a motorcycle, and I don't know if you can see like I can, these mirrors. They are fantastic. Another thing they did right, these mirrors, I can see so well behind me. There's no effort involved. I just kind of glance and I can see everything behind me. Just barely see the outside of my arms in the corner of the mirror, and then I see everything behind me and to the side of me. It is so awesome. I'm actually loving this bike, guys. Standing position is really great, especially with these bars. Real natural standing position. And there's those brakes. Woohoo! That is fantastic. You can shut it off by this button, and then you can turn the display off with that button. And my friends, that is the 2015 Ducati Multistrada S Pikes in white. Boom.